Hello, everyone. There's been a lot of talk lately about the Mount Nemo Quarry Expansion, so I've prepared some data for you on the project that has been ongoing since about 2004, so I'll get right into it for you. For over 2 decades, our community has been at the center of a major land use fight over Mount Nemo and the Niagara Escarpment. I have made this briefing to cover what is happening with the proposed Nelson Aggregates Quarry expansion at Mount Nemo. So, this has been going on for a very long time, and it's covered multiple administrations in Burlington here, and it can't just be laid at the feet of the mayor and her council like some other projects can. Between 2004 and 2012, Nelson Aggregates first applied to expand the quarry. After an 8-year legal battle, a joint board hearing denied that application in 2012 with the justification that it carried severe environmental risks. In 2020, Nelson submitted a new proposal to expand by roughly 125 acres or 50 hectares into nearby lands, including agricultural areas and parts of the golf club. In 2022 and 2023, bypassing local decisions, Nelson appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, claiming municipal delay. And in 2025 and 2026, a multi-month merits hearing concluded, and the OLT ultimately approved the expansion, subject to site plan revisions. The price of litigation has been high. From 2004 to 2012, community groups like Core Burlington raised as much as $800,000 from out-of-pocket resident donations. These funds were used to hire lawyers, hydrogeologists, and independent experts. Millions more in municipal tax dollars have been spent across 2 decades by the City of Burlington and by Halton Region and various conservation authorities to retain legal teams and run joint agency review teams. If you've been following me at all, you know my position on litigation against developers. I specifically have a sore spot regarding the litigation against the Millcroft Greens development because of how aggressively it was undertaken by the city and because of the outcome not being ideal for the residents in Millcroft. And I believe the same thing might have happened here on a larger scale. It seems to me, at least, that the time frame of 22 years to get a project settled is astronomical. It's not ideal. Anyway, there are proposed benefits. So I'll get into those. 30 million tons of limestone. Nelson has argued that the region urgently needs high-grade construction stone for the GTHA, housing, transit, and roads. So what they've planned for is a 30-year life cycle, which means that the mining will run from 25 to 30 years. And as stone is extracted, Nelson has committed to progressive rehabilitation, promising to hand over nearly 1,000 acres to create Mount Nemo City Park. This will be a public green space with trails and lakes. So these are some of the benefits of this extraction. First of all, the aggregate is very important for the construction industry, and with the rapid expansion of Burlington, Milton, and other surrounding suburbs, there are companies that need quite a bit of aggregate. Supplying it locally will ease the burden on our national supply chain and also reduce emissions in the transport of the materials. I think that is something to be considered when considering the viability of this project as a whole. There are several environmental concerns in this project, and I'm going to go through them now. So first of all, the Niagara Escarpment and Mount Nemo are part of a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. Industrial open pit mining will permanently alter the landscape. Water tables and well interference can occur. Deep excavation creates risks for neighboring private water wells and local wetland ecosystems. There is also an endangered species. The plateau is critical habitat for the endangered Jefferson salamander, which relies on sensitive wetland hydrology. And finally, air quality and dust. So, decades of blasting and crushing and hundreds of daily truckloads raise fine particulate matter and silica dust concerns for nearby homes. These are some very serious environmental considerations, especially since this is a UNESCO site. This is most likely one of the reasons that this project has been delayed for so long by municipal authorities. They ultimately will be forced to proceed with it based on precedent. The OLT is not, at least the modern OLT is not known for allowing appeals of its decisions. The first appeal of this project was brought around because it was actually ruled on by the predecessor to the OLT. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. The litigation over the past 22 years of this project has led to a few concessions on behalf of the developer and mitigations that they will be required to implement should they wish to move forward with this project. And there are some fairly decent mitigations, so it leaves me wondering if we had negotiated better, could we have come up with a better outcome for our residents? So here's what they are. They've committed to hydrological recirculation. So any water pumped out of the quarry has to be monitored and redirected to protect the nearby wetlands. They also have well preservation protocols in place. Nelson must monitor local well levels. If a private well drops or degrades, they are legally obligated to supply water or deepen the well. Then there's the salamanders. So mandatory buffer zones around breeding points and wildlife underpasses will be constructed as the project moves forward. For the Jefferson salamander, this is good news. It means that there's hope that their habitat will survive open pit mining, which is good. The current status is that the City of Burlington and Halton Region are reviewing the OLT decision details, and Nelson must still fulfill specific site plan modifications and provincial licensing requirements before the project can begin. All in all, it's very difficult for me to land on one side of this argument. I think it's a very nuanced argument that has been occurring obviously for multiple decades, and it crosses a few different areas that other similar projects in the city don't. There's obviously a lot of money at stake here, both for Nelson Aggregates and for the City of Burlington and Halton Region. Should this project move forward, there's going to be also additional jobs created and additional opportunities created for local construction companies to source their aggregates from a more accessible point in our supply chain. However, we cannot ignore damage to a UNESCO heritage site, and that is a major consideration to be made here. Residents have expressed to me that they are concerned that after the excavation is complete, that the company may find a way to get out of its commitment to rehabilitate the landscape. From my understanding, it will be a phased rehabilitation that will follow the mining route. So as they expand the site into new areas, once they extract all the aggregate from previous areas, they will start to fill in and rehabilitate as they move forward. So it will be a multi-phase rehabilitation that is implemented gradually as the mining project proceeds. That leaves less wiggle room for the company to attempt to get out of its commitments. I personally don't think there's a major risk of this. because they're going to want to probably expand again after this quarry is exhausted. If you have any questions, concerns, or information that you would like me to find for you, please reach out to me at Rowen, that's ROWEN, at roro4council.com. Thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully talk to you all soon.